I was attending a Sufi camp in Mendocino, California, and at the conclusion of the camp, each of us was given a darshan with Pir Vilayat in the redwood trees with the sunlight streaming through. And when I went up there dutifully for my darshan, I remember him saying to me, among other things, "You should seek initiation in a Hindu sect." So I was traveling back across the United States back to Rhode Island, and I stopped at the Lama Foundation on a Sunday, and Ram Dass was there. So with great excitement, I went to him and kneeled before him. He was sitting there talking to some other people, and I asked him what he thought of Pir Vilayat's advice. And he paused for a long 45 seconds, and then he finally said, "You know, I don't know that he can see into your being in that way, but if you should find yourself in Nainital this summer, look for KK Shah. I mean SL. I guess it was SL or ML, one of them. Anyway, at the Nainital, at the Evelyn Hotel." So I was so excited. I drove back to Rhode Island, sold my van, got on an airplane, and went to Nainital. And the following morning, went down to Kenchi, and was so excited. I was sitting there in front of the tucket, and there were a number of people there, and they had put fruit and offerings on the tucket. And out came Maharaj-ji with this big bang of the door, and his blanket was flying, and he sat down in the tucket, and he looked to me like he was chewing gum, but I later discovered that he was saying Ram, 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 Ram. And the first thing he said to me, he looked at me and said, "You come from America?" And I think Krishna Das and Balaram were translating, and I said, "Yes, I did." And then he says to me, "Is that your girlfriend?" And he points to Uma, who was sitting next to me. And I turned and looked at her, and she looked just like my girlfriend back in the States. And I was very confused, and I said, "Well, no, not really, but she looks like her." And then I looked at him, and he looked at me, and all of a sudden, this heat began to build in the base of my spine, and I felt like I was on an elevator, and this rush just went right up my spine, and it was very euphoric and ethereal. And he gazed at me, and I caught his gaze, and there was like these waves of light coming out of his eyes. It was palpable. You could almost touch it, and I thought, this is why I came to India. This is the most extraordinary thing. And then somebody said, "Jao, go eat breakfast." And I said, "I'm not hungry. I'm staying right here." And they said, No, you don't understand. You have to go." I said, "But I don't want to go. I don't need to eat. This is all I need." Nevertheless, I went and ate breakfast. For the next 2 weeks, I don't think Maharaj-ji even looked at me. It was the most intimate moment of my life, and then nothing. And I thought, God, I must have a lot of sins on my head, And I went through a range of emotions, from jealousy to anger to sorrow it was the wildest roller coaster ride for 2 weeks. And finally I said, I've got to stop this. So I went to seek out Dwarka, and I got a job in the kitchen cleaning rice. And I did this for several days and calmed down and got accustomed to just doing the seva. And one afternoon at chai, I came to help serve chai, and everybody, there was probably 12 or 15 people sitting around the tucket, and I was way in the background. And it was as if everybody had a cartoon bubble over their heads explaining who they were or what their problem was. I looked on the right, and I could see this young man, and he was obviously heartbroken, having just broken up with his girlfriend. I mean, this is what I thought anyway. It seemed to me everybody's story was above their head. And at that moment, I felt this enormous compassion for everybody, and this welling up of emotion came to my throat. And at that very moment, Maharaj-ji, who hadn't paid any attention to me for now 3 weeks, looks up, and he goes, "Acha!" And he starts throwing me bananas. And I'm catching them left and right. And so I said, that's the message. And that was the opening of of my heart